The Angry Birds 2 movie is just around the corner, so it is the perfect time to dive back into the first movie and look at the root of anger and how it almost destroyed this entire flock of birds. Welcome to Durbania, I'm Durbin, and this is my theological analysis for the Angry Birds movie. With the second movie coming out just around the corner, this is the perfect time to dive back into the first movie and really pick it apart and look at the root of anger and how much it nearly destroyed this entire island and flock of birds. It's actually kind of weirdly depressing when you think about it. Are you excited for the Angry Birds movie 2? Did you like the first one? Let's talk in the comments.
Don't look, Bobby. The anger might be contagious.
And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. And I think this movie is a really good picture of that verse, showing us how anger took root, how they didn't let it go, and how that gave a foothold to the devil. Or in this case, literally, it gave a foothold to these little piggies that nearly came in and ate their children. Yeah, the piggies wanted to eat their children. But something else interesting, another translation of that verse says this: be angry and yet do not sin. As if being angry, feeling anger is not the sin in itself, but it's what you do with that anger. And when you look at this Angry Birds movie, we see a lot of anger and we see what these birds do with it. Specifically, Red. We get a lot of details with Red and how he's let anger control and rule this guy's life. Now, first, in the beginning, you have this montage, and it's a pretty funny little montage of him in various situations where people are just ticking him off, and he's getting up in their face. And trust me, I've been in these kind of situations where it ticks me off. I want to get up in people's faces, but then we flash back. And what we find is when he was a little birdling and he was in school, all the kids were making fun of him because of his big eyebrows. Why? Because kids are jerks and they like to make fun of what's different. So of course it's gonna build up some anger in him. But here in school, we see him feeling more like a victim. In this montage, we see him trying not to be that victim. Probably one of the saddest parts of this little montage is that little scene in the meadow where the girl birds are blowing kisses and he thinks it's towards him, because what we see here is that he craves companionship. And then the big handsome bird steps down on his head, pushing his face into his lunchbox, and walks off with the girl birds. And as Red is watching the girl birds walk off, he flashes right back to him hatching in the Lost and Found. He didn't hatch with his mommy and his daddy with unconditional love around him. No, somehow the egg was in the Lost and Found, and this is where Red hatches? What kind of toll does that have on a little tiny baby birdie feeling abandoned from birth and now watching the pretty girls walk away with the handsome dude who just walked over him? Here he is feeling like a doormat, being walked over, and the love and companionship that he craves is walking away with something better in his eyes. So what does he do with this? He lets that anger take root. Rather than dealing with it in any kind of healthy way, it's this fear of being abandoned, and it's this anger that arises out of that fear. It's almost like he craves that companionship, but when he builds his own house, he builds it on the beach far away. He isolates himself from the flock, either to punish them for the way he's been treated, or maybe it's because he feels like they're going to hurt him and abandon him anyway, so he might as well take the initiative and be in control, and he chooses to isolate himself. This pattern of isolation keeps repeating throughout this movie. You have it with the mighty, mighty eagle, whom they go to for wisdom. Get it? Wisdom. It's gross. Anyway, but you have the mighty eagle who got so self-focused. So you have Red, who's self-focused. He's let the anger and the bitterness take control and take root. He feels like it's all attacks against him from everybody else. He's self-focused, and so he's fighting back, incredibly angry and cynical towards everything. And you have the mighty eagle, who is high on his own legend, man. He's got the Hall of Heroes, which is all of his trophies and all of that stuff. He isolated himself from the flock because of his ego.
He talks a good game, but he doesn't care about anyone but himself.
Sounds a lot like you.
And Red made a really, really good point here.
You know, it's really upsetting to me that you're the only bird that can fly, and you're too afraid to do it.
I think that's really interesting because it shows the one bird on this island that can fly is too afraid to. So common theme here. Red has a fear of abandonment. It's creating anger in him. He isolates himself. The mighty eagle has fear in his heart, and he's just so full of himself, so he isolates himself. But you have the whole flock of birds on this island, and they've separated themselves. Look at this scene. Are you noticing anything crazy here about their world map? Their world map is just their island. Somehow, they became separated from the rest of the world to the point that the birds that now live on this island believe that they're the only things in this entire world. So they're kind of self-focused, thinking that they're it. And then the piggies arrive. And what's interesting about their arrival is we see something similar in the entire flock that we see with Red. Red craved that companionship. Now this flock is seeing there's something other than them outside of their little world and outside of their little island, a different species of animal, a different culture altogether, and they're craving that friendship with it. And the little piggies take advantage of this root that has been growing up inside this entire flock of angry birds this entire time. And then you have Red, and he's the one dude who's actually asking the right questions. Why are you guys showing up now? Why are there more pigs in your ship when you said you and this many pigs are the only ones that are here? Why do you keep lying? What are you even lying about? He's asking all of the right questions because he doesn't want to be a victim and he doesn't want to be taken advantage of. So that's good. It's good that he's asking the right questions, but he's been so negative and so cynical for long that he's the boy who cried wolf. Or the little bird who cried vulture. I don't know, however you want to look at it. The point is he's been crying wolf so long that now that the wolves have shown up in piggy clothing, he's crying wolf, but everybody's just so sick of what he has to say because he's just been this way about everything.
You got the night off, why don't you fix my house?
Yeah, it's the same guy.
So who wants to listen to him now? This was the right time for questions. This was the right time to dig into some things just a little bit. And when finally he's picked the right time to ask questions, he's even jerky and cynical about that. He's been jerky and cynical so long. Who wants to hear it from him? I wouldn't want to hear it from him. And in fact, you could probably bet there's a little bit of, well, we're just going to be friends with these piggies just to spite you, you stupid little red jerk face. It's amazing how anger kind of has that reaction. And the piggies take advantage of it. They bring in these awesome slingshots and trampolines and food and an awesome pig dance party. All these beautiful, shiny things that the birds want. And the birds are distracted while the pigs take their eggs so they can eat them.
We will eat the eggs for lunch.
Did he say eat the eggs?
The pigs want to eat the birds' children, okay? But that true intent was covered up because the pigs were taking advantage of this root that had taken into the heart of this flock and been growing this entire time. And they took advantage of it, burned down the town, and took off with all of their eggs, all of their children. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. So all this time, this root of bitterness that had been growing because they didn't know how to let go of their anger, their ego, or their fears had really taken root, and the pigs took complete advantage of that. But now here at the end, we almost get a good look at healthy anger because they've been trapped. Their eggs have been taken from them. And what they're angry at is the trap. They're angry at the trap they themselves have been stuck in all this time. They're angry that their eggs have been taken, and now they're going not to be vindictive and not for vengeance, but to rescue their eggs and to get their eggs back.
Yeah, point made.
Even Jesus was angry, and he dealt with it correctly. It says he looked around at them angrily and was deeply saddened by their hard hearts. Then he said to the man, "Hold out your hand." So the man held out his hand, and it was restored. So this dude with a withered hand, and it's a Sabbath day, Jesus wants to heal that withered hand. But you have these religious leaders who are caught in their own little trap of, it's gotta be about me, about my ego, about my place in this sad little world. And because Jesus was doing right and attention was on him, they decided we gotta trap him. We gotta snare him so that we can discredit him. What was Jesus mad at? What was he truly angry at? The trap, not the people. He was angry at the trap of pride and ego that they were caught in, the trap that they were trying to set for him. But he was saddened by their hard hearts. He had compassion on the people, and then he healed the dude's withered hand. So what is Jesus showing us? He's showing us a different perspective when it comes to anger. You know that phrase, hurt people, hurt people? It seems that Red had fallen into this trap of anger because he was hurt. Hurt by being in the lost and found, hurt by being made fun of as he grew up. He was hurt. And how cool would it have been if some other birds recognized that he had been ensnared in a trap? And instead of being angry at Red, they were angry at the trap that had ensnared him. And recognizing his pain, had mercy and compassion on him, and stood up, retaliating back against him in anger. Oh wait, you have that with Chuck and Bomb, who got past Red's gritty exterior of anger and pushing people away and became his true friends. And that was a huge part of his character arc. Red was able to grow and was able to change because that friendship and companionship he was looking for and pushing others away, there were others that recognized, no, this is a dude who's in pain. And in their mercy and in their compassion, they became friends with him because they cared about Red, the person. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who captures a city. So if we're gonna be angry at anything, let's be angry at the trap. Let's be angry at the trap that wants to take root in our lives and humble ourselves and release that anger and come to God and ask him for wisdom to give us that higher perspective to see that even those people that make us mad, he loves them and he's forgiven them, and he can give us that same love and compassion towards others and towards ourselves. When you watch Angry Birds, what do you see in this movie? Let's talk about that in the comments. Are you excited for the sequel? Let me know. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my very next theological analysis, movie review, ranking video, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.